we're gonna be watching how I learned to code in 4 months and got a job. No CS degree or bootcamp. I don't have a CS degree or a bootcamp either. I did learn by myself. I did not get my job in 4 months because I wasn't even looking for a job for many years. It just happened to me. I was offered a job pretty much, and I took it. But this was many, many years later. But is it possible? Yes, it is possible. It all depends on the pay as well. I have no idea if this guy actually got, a high paid job or not. In the US, it's a lot easier to get a higher paid job than, most of the places. But knowing how to code, 4 months is more than fine. It all depends on the person, how much time you have, to do these things. And it also depends on the timing, because sometimes you may just not be lucky enough for a company to want you at that time, right? So it's a lot of these things are luck based, as in timing is very important. That company was looking for someone at that time and you appeared, I have no idea how he got the job. We'll see. I'm hoping it's a nice video. It's only 10 minutes long, so that's a good thing. So this is 2-year-old video, and at the time probably it was easier to get jobs. It's already after COVID. It's not during the COVID time, so I'm not sure exactly how the job market was at the time. Nowadays I think it's a lot harder. Let's go and watch.
I dropped out of college, was in debt, working 60 hours a week, hated my job, and most importantly, I felt stuck. This is the story of how I learned how to code within 4 months and I got a job. I did it with no computer science degree or a coding bootcamp. I'm going to explain exactly what I learned, how I got a job, and how much that job paid. Let's go. Before I got into tech, I was working a lot of dead-end sales jobs because I dropped out of community college and I didn't really have any other skills.
Sales. So sales, many times they actually use computers. So that's not too bad, just because you can actually automate many of the tasks by learning how to code. So I wouldn't say that's a very bad job to be at the time that you're actually learning, how to code.
I didn't like the idea of always having to hop from job to job if I didn't like something. I wanted something with a little bit more career mobility long term. I didn't even really know.
I'm not sure, because if you're doing software development, it's if you don't like the company or the job, because software development, you can do a lot of different things. It's not limited to developing a website, an app, or anything like that. It's there's a lot of things that you can do as a software developer. So I think you can still job hop a lot if you don't like what you're doing, or your team, or your company, among many other things. So I'm not entirely sure about that.
What coding was. I just knew that the tech industry was, let's say, a great environment for
180 grand now.
200-ish, yeah.
250,000.
400,000 annually.
growth. Yeah. By the way, I'm not knocking sales. I think sales is a really important skill to learn. I just needed a change, and it really just wasn't for me long term. And I wanted to gain the ability to build something of my own. The idea of building something from 0 to 1 seemed like a superpower to me. Day one, I just went on Google and I typed in how to code. That's when I found a site called FreeCodeCamp, and I started to learn about web development. I quickly learned about HTML, CSS, and I learned about my first real programming language called JavaScript. There's a bunch of different programming languages that you could learn, but I personally chose JavaScript because I wanted to build web apps. Even major companies like Uber and Airbnb use it, and there's a massive demand for it in the job market.
In all honesty, any company that uses a website pretty much use JavaScript, even if it's through React or Angular or anything like that. TypeScript technically is JavaScript. There is not many difference, except that it has a type to it and plus extra bits, but overall there is going to be some JavaScript involved, most likely. Not every company, depends on what they do, but if they have a web app, you'll find JavaScript somewhere.
By using FreeCodeCamp, I started to learn the basics of coding. I learned things like variables, loops, objects, and functions. But even after doing the tutorials, I didn't really feel like I could apply it to anything, and I still didn't even know how to do something as basic as building a website. And I realized that I learned how to code, not exactly how to program. I was writing.
I'm not even sure if you learned how to code, but yeah, let's go.
Code to solve logic problems, but I didn't know how to program, which is using the code to build something useful. At this point though, already, I was starting to love the journey. I really liked problem solving, and I could see myself doing something like this long term. So I did what any sane person would do, and I quit my job and I moved to Korea to minimize my expenses, and I decided to learn full-time. Learning full-time was a lot harder than I thought. I've actually never studied anything this complicated or tough before, and I was quickly starting to realize that I didn't really know how to study at this pace. I would sit in front of my computer and hours would go by. That was when I went online, I typed in how to learn, and I found a course called Learning How to Learn by Barbara Oakley. This course was life-changing. My two main takeaways were, one, it taught me how to learn in spaced segments, a technique called Pomodoros, and the course taught me that I needed to create a dedicated space for learning, so I joined a co-working space so I could...
I actually think this is a very good thing. If you go to a co-working space like this, or like, let's say, library or something like that, probably it will help you actually focusing, as in get the things done. Because if you are in an environment like at home, you are more likely to just go to, do your own things and, watch videos and whatnot. I think going to a place like this does help you, like, do what you're actually supposed to be doing, if that makes sense. I think this is a very good advice.
So I could focus better. Now, armed with new knowledge, I got back to studying, and it worked.
Here's what a normal day looked like. 8 a.m., wake up. 8:30, head to the train station. 9 a.m., arrive at the co-working space. 9:15, coffee, journaling, reviewing the curriculum. 9:30 to 12:30, I would have my first study session where I did 30-minute increments of Pomodoros. From 12:30 to 1:30, I would eat lunch and take a small break, then back to studying. From 2 p.m. to 6:30, it was more 30-minute increments of Pomodoros until I was ready to head out. From 6:30 to 7:30, I would gym 3 times a week, and then 8:30 to 9, I would eat dinner with my grandma, then help her clean. This was my schedule for 6 days a week, no exceptions.
The next part of Free Code Camp was a lot more challenging. Front-end projects. They essentially give you a list of projects that you have to build using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. To me, this felt like a massive jump because I never actually built anything before. I felt stuck at this stage until I found a YouTube channel of this guy named Steven who would stream himself building these projects line by line. By copying him and recreating what he was doing,
Word for word, bar for bar.
I was able to use that experience and build the next couple of projects on my own. I also found a great resource called watchingcode.com where you watch and code. By following along once again and modeling others, the concepts really started to take hold. And I was
like the 4 months, they seem like it makes total sense. The way that he actually went into studying these things and so on, like actually going into a workplace and spending, the day there and learning, it makes total sense that he could get a job in 4 months. And like it showed his determination in actually getting things done and learning. And I think, if you spend 4 months doing this, I think it's totally, reasonable to get a job in the end of those 4 months.
I was really starting to understand what I was doing, not just solving a math problem. In exactly 1 month, I ended up earning my free Code Camp front-end developer certificate. I was learning a lot, but I never actually built anything full stack before. Something with a front end or an interface, the thing that you see within the browser, a database where all the information lives essentially, and
the naming, Datenbank. I don't know which language that is, but yeah.
A server which handles and manipulates all the data in the backend by taking in requests from the front end. So I still felt like an imposter and not a real developer.
You're not an intellectual.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, even if you spend a few years working on, different projects, there is a lot of stuff that you have no idea or that you haven't even touched at all. So, it makes sense. It just, if you feel like an imposter, it's called imposter syndrome, and it's totally normal. I mean, you shouldn't even feel it. It's just, what do you expect to actually know how to do like everything? I don't know. It all depends on what people actually expect to be known at this point. But yeah.
You're a fake and a fraud.
So, to become a programmer, I decided to build my first full stack project. Remember Steve with the YouTube channel? I reached out to him to get his assistance to help me build my first full stack web app. We decided to meet 3 times a week. Here's what we did. We picked one major overarching project, which will teach me the basics of CRUD, which is create, read, update, and delete. These are the foundations for any web application. I decided to clone Pinterest. I honestly don't think I would have gotten a job without this next part, so pay attention. I asked Steve to treat me like a real junior developer working at a company. We implemented a project management tool called Jira. Use Jira.
again, this gives them like experience on these softwares that many times companies actually want. Like, do you have any experience with Jira? Do you have any experience with DevOps, Azure DevOps and whatnot? And having experience with these things, it's very important. Like, if you can put them on the CV, and later when they ask you, what about Jira and so on, you can actually explain things and you can explain what you have done. And I think that's actually very important that they went this route. I think everything so far, I think it's pretty good what he has done so far. And I'm not surprised if he got the job after 4 months. But then again, I think it's very luck based, as in if you get a job in 4 months or 7 months or whatnot. But I think he was ready to be a junior at 4 months time, doing all of this kind of stuff. Yeah, totally.
I had to compartmentalize the entire project and write the requirements of exactly what I'd be building. This taught me how to estimate my work and plan how to build an entire web app from zero to launch. We also set the project up on GitHub, which is a version control application. Being a developer isn't just about knowing how to code, it's about knowing how to work collaboratively with other people as well. Steve grilled me on our pair programming sessions. He was very strict about me keeping the deadlines and the estimates that I originally wrote out for myself. He would constantly question why I was doing what I was doing, and he even taught me the concept of dry. Just don't repeat yourself, or essentially just making reusable code. I had to learn how to build by Googling for answers and using sites like Stack Overflow. And he would leave me a lot of comments on things that I needed to change, so I learned how to debug my code on my own. This made me feel like I was a real developer. At this time, I supplemented my learning journey with Udemy courses on React and Node because these were the two frameworks that I chose to build my Pinterest clone. As a result of building my first full stack project, I ended up learning how to do things like
How to design a database, build APIs, set up auth, and eventually push the app to a cloud server.
These are all things I would have never learned by just doing tutorials. And in around 2 months, I finished my first full stack web app. I remember when I finished the app, I felt like a real programmer. That's when reality set in, and I realized I'm still broke. I haven't made a single penny in over a couple of months, and I still needed to find a job. It was time to see if everything that I learned was actually worth anything. First, I defined the job that I wanted. I wanted to be remote, and most importantly, I wanted to work for a small to medium-sized company because I hate working in a corporate environment. I found all the jobs that fit my
Yeah, that's really nice. Again, I think it's a lot easier to get a job like this on a smaller company than, on a top company. So, yeah.
parameters on sites like WeWorkRemotely.com and RemoteOK.io. And instead of just applying to these jobs, I found the contact information of the hiring managers and developers who worked at the company, and I messaged them to introduce myself. I explained exactly what I had learned up until this point, what I was looking for. I even included the link to my GitHub so they could see the projects that I had built. Most importantly, I included an offer that I know that they couldn't refuse.
I offered to work for free.
And I understand, guys.
I don't know, it depends a lot on where you are, but many times companies cannot have you working for them for free. So even if you offer that, and I think it's a really nice thing to do, to offer that for free, because you want a job obviously and you don't mind working for free for a while. But I'm not sure if it would come way too desperate for those people, or if it would actually, for me, I would actually be into giving a job to someone like that. But for many people, I don't think that's the message that it passes. So I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad thing, to be honest.
Guys, not everyone can afford to do this, but I had originally estimated that this was going to take me around 4 months anyways, and I had another month of time that I could essentially dedicate to learning. I knew all I had to do was get my foot into a company I could essentially learn.
This is true. All you need is to get the foot into a company that later on you can just jump to another company and get a better pay and so on. So the very first job is just so, yes, I have some experience, I did work as a software developer, so now I can just go and look for something else that gets better pay. It will be easier than if you have no experience whatsoever in software development. Yeah.
Learn there and then prove my worth over time to leverage that into a real job long term. Overall, I found around 22 jobs I thought fit the parameters of what I was looking for. I got around 6 responses. From those responses, I got 4 interviews, and
that's not bad at all, by the way, getting all those interviews and all these responses, I don't know, this was 2 years ago, obviously, but I think it's still pretty good.
Out of the 4 interviews, I ended up getting 3 legitimate job offers. Even though I had
That's
offered
pretty
to
good.
work for free, after the technical interviews, the employers thought that I had enough skills at that point where I was worth hiring for a full-time job. I ended up choosing the company with the best opportunity to learn, and that
The one that pays the most, probably.
also happened to have the best compensation package as well.
My first salary was $50,000 a year. And then
Yeah. As long as you're not expecting like 100K from the start, then yes, it's totally doable. This is still a good salary in my opinion, even for USD and so on. So yeah, I think it's great what he did, and I think that's a great, opportunity for him.
And after my probationary period, I was making $65,000 a year. My benefits kicked in like health and dental. But the
that's
biggest perk for me was that I got to work remotely the entire time as long as I worked the US time zone. I'm not saying that you'll be an expert developer if you follow this plan. I'm just sharing what I did to learn just enough to land me a job, as most of the progress that I've had as a developer all came on the job.
No luck here, just focused effort. Now, I've been working in tech
There's
for over a
still some
decade,
luck,
and
yeah.
let me be the first to tell you,
I do think that he did, a lot of the things were really good, like the Jira stuff and the studying in a place like a workplace. I think, there was skill involved in this for sure. I do think that luck still plays a role, but I do think that he did his job and, it paid off. I do agree with it. I think he did a lot of things correctly, and good job.
that nobody cares about your credentials. Learning how to code was mainly 2 things. Learning how to solve problems, and 2, persisting until you find the answer that you're looking for. If you're interested in seeing us learn more cool stuff, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And also, if you want to see me apply these principles to something other than coding, like something artistic, click on this video. Where we're going to put it? Here.
Eh bien, je souhaite toujours ici. Chacun des moments peut lever froid comme
I think it was a really good video. I think he did a great job. So, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it was great. Yeah. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.